Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Chapter 8: The Quidditch World Cup. The stadium was a marvel of magical engineering, easily seating 100,000 witches and wizards. As they climbed to their seats in the top box, Harry's heart raced with excitement. They were so high up that the players would look like mere specks zooming around on their broomsticks. The mascots put on a show before the match began. The Bulgarian Vila, breathtakingly beautiful women, danced onto the field, their movements so graceful and alluring that Harry found himself wanting to do something impressive, like jump from the top box. Hermione's sharp tug on his robes snapped him out of the trance. The Irish leprechauns followed, forming a massive green and gold shamrock in the sky, before showering the stands with gold coins. Ron gleefully scooped up handfuls, only to learn later that the gold would vanish within hours. Then the players were introduced, streaking onto the field on their broomsticks. Harry's eyes were glued to Victor Krum, the Bulgarian seeker, whose prowess was legendary despite his young age. The match was like nothing Harry had ever seen. The speed of the players, the precision of their moves, and the intensity of the game were breathtaking. Krum's feints and dives were particularly spectacular, leaving the Irish seeker, Lynch, repeatedly crashing into the ground. In a surprising twist, Krum caught the snitch, but Ireland still won the match. The stadium erupted in a cacophony of cheers and groans, magical fireworks exploding overhead in a dazzling display. As they left the stadium discussing the match's finer points, Harry felt a sense of pure joy. This was magic at its most exhilarating, a reminder of why he loved the wizarding world so much. Little did he know that the night's events were far from over, and that the excitement of the World Cup was about to give way to something far more sinister. Chapter 9: The Dark Mark. The celebratory atmosphere in the campsite was shattered in the dead of night. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were jolted, awake by screams and the sound of running feet. Outside their tent, Chaz reigned. A group of masked wizards, their wands raised, were marching across the field. Above them, floating in midair, were four struggling figures, the Muggle family that owned the campground, being twisted into grotesque shapes. Mr. Weasley, along with Bill, Charlie, and Percy, rushed to help the ministry officials. He ordered Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Ginny to hide in the woods and stick together. As they stumbled through the dark forest, they lost Fred, George, and Ginny in the panicked crowd. Suddenly, they heard a drawling voice they recognized all too well: Draco Malfoy. "Keep that big bushy head down, Granger," Malfoy sneered. "They're after Muggles. You want to be showing off your knickers in midair?" Before they could retaliate, a deep silence fell over the woods. Then, without warning, a voice roared, "Mordre!" A vast, glittering, green skull with a serpent tongue erupted into the sky. The dark mark, Voldemort's sign. Panic ensued as witches and wizards disapparated in terror. Moments later, they were surrounded by ministry wizards, all with their wands pointed directly at them. Only Mr. Weasley's timely intervention prevented them from being stunned. As the night's events were pieced together, one question remained: who had conjured the dark mark and why? Chapter 10: Mayhem at the Ministry. In the days following the World Cup, the wizarding world was in turmoil. The Daily Prophet was full of speculation and criticism of the ministry's handling of events. Mr. Weasley was constantly at work, trying to smooth things over. One morning, Percy pompously announced that Mr. Crouch had praised his report on cauldron bottom thickness. "He said I'm going places," Percy boasted, his chest puffing out. Fred muttered to Harry, Yeah, to the toilet to scrub it, probably. Despite the tense atmosphere, Mrs. Weasley managed to take everyone to Diagon Alley for school supplies. As they shopped, Harry noticed wanted posters of Sirius Black still plastered on many windows, a reminder of the danger that always seemed to lurk in the background of his life. At Flourish and Blots, they encountered Rita Skeeter, a journalist known for her sensationalist stories. She was pestering ministry officials for interviews about the World Cup fiasco. Harry instinctively ducked behind a bookshelf, not wanting to become her next headline. Chapter 11, Aboard the Hogwarts Express. Finally, September 1st arrived. The journey to King's Cross was chaotic as usual, with last-minute packing and Crookshanks, Hermione's cat, refusing to get into his basket on platform 9 3/4. Harry overheard snippets of conversation about a mysterious event happening at Hogwarts. However, every time he tried to ask Mr. Weasley or Bill about it, they just smiled secretively and said he'd find out soon enough. As the Hogwarts Express pulled away from the station, rain lashed against the window. In their compartment, Ron was examining his dress robes with disgust. They were a moldy maroon color with frilly lace cuffs. "What are these for?" Harry asked, puzzled by the formal attire on their school lists. "Dunno," Ron grumbled. "Mom got them for some reason." Their discussion was interrupted by Draco Malfoy, who swaggered into their compartment with his usual sneering face. "Weasley, what are those?" Malfoy said, pointing at Ron's dress robes with glee. "Good Lord, were they fashionable in about 1890? Hermione slammed the compartment door in Malfoy's face, but not before he promised ominously, "Keep your big head down, Granger. Things are changing at Hogwarts this year, and your sort might not be so welcome anymore." As the train sped northward, the rain grew heavier. Harry stared out at the darkening landscape, wondering what changes awaited them at Hogwarts, and why he had a sinking feeling that this year would bring challenges unlike any he'd faced before. Chapter 12, the Triwizard Tournament. As the students arrived at Hogwarts, there was a palpable sense that something was different this year. The Great Hall had more chairs than usual, and unfamiliar faces adorned the staff table. Dumbledore rose to make an important announcement. This year, Hogwarts will be hosting the Triwizard Tournament. A buzz of excitement rippled through the students. The Triwizard Tournament was a dangerous and prestigious competition between 3 wizarding schools. "And now, let us welcome our guests," Dumbledore continued. The delegations from Buxbaton's Academy of Magic and Durmstrang Institute. The Buxbaton students entered gracefully, followed by the Durmstrang contingent. Ron was thrilled to spot Victor Krum, the famous Quidditch player, among them. Dumbledore explained further, "A champion will be selected from each school. The selection will be made by the Goblet of Fire, and only students who are 17 or older may enter." Harry and Ron were disappointed, but also relieved. It seemed they might avoid danger for once. Chapter 13, Madame Moody. The next day, students met their new defense against the dark arts teacher, Alastair Madame Moody. His face was scared, and one eye was replaced with a magical one that swiveled independently. Moody's first lesson was shocking. He demonstrated the 3 unforgivable curses to the class. He controlled a spider with the Imperious Curse, inflicted pain with the Cruciatus Curse, and finally, killed it with Avada Kedavra. Neville was particularly affected by the Cruciatus Curse, and Hermione questioned the appropriateness of the lesson. After class, Moody held Harry back. "Potter, you've got to maintain constant vigilance. Never let your guard down." Chapter 14 The Goblet of Fire. Days later, the Goblet of Fire was placed in the Great Hall. Dumbledore drew an age line to prevent underage students from entering. Fred and George attempted to fool the line with an aging potion, but ended up with long white beards for their trouble. Finally, the day of the champions' selection arrived. 3 names emerged from the goblet: Durmstrang champion, Victor Krum; Beix-Baton's champion, Fleur Delacour; Hogwarts champion, Cedric Diggory. But suddenly, a 4th piece of parchment shot out of the goblet. Dumbledore caught it, his face etched with surprise as he read, "Harry Potter." The hall fell silent, all eyes turning to Harry. Shocked and scared, Harry stood up. He knew he hadn't put his name in, but he doubted anyone would believe him. As Harry entered the small chamber, the other champions eyed him suspiciously. He realized he was now forced to compete in a dangerous tournament he never wanted to enter. This was no accident. Someone had deliberately put Harry in this perilous situation. But who? And why? Chapter 15 The Weighing of the Wands. In the days following his unexpected selection, Harry found himself isolated. Many students, including Ron, believed he had somehow tricked the Goblet of Fire. Only Hermione stood firmly by his side. One morning, Harry was called out of potions class for the weighing of the wands ceremony. In a small classroom, he joined the other champions Cedric, Fleur, and Victor. Mr. Ollivander, the wand maker, was there to inspect their wands. As the ceremony proceeded, Harry noticed Rita Skeeter, a reporter for the Daily Prophet, eyeing him hungrily. She pulled him into a broom cupboard for a private interview, her quick-quotes quill dancing across parchment, twisting his words into sensational lies. After escaping Rita's clutches, Harry returned to find the wand weighing complete. As they posed for photographs, he couldn't shake the feeling that this tournament was going to be more challenging than he could have ever imagined.